What is going on, everybody? Welcome to your Before the Battle Ella Buck edition of the Coach and the Couch Potato. As always, I'm Jeremy the Couch Potato. Opposite side of the screen, we got Coach Slate. And for the first time since 2017, the Ella Buck Trophy is on the line Saturday as the Buckeyes travel to Champaign to play number 17 Illinois at noon on Fox.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize that. And what a great trophy too. You
Yeah.
know, that's it's pretty cool to have these rivalry games, man, and to play for something tangible. I think that's cool. You know, at Harding we've got the Erie Bell that we play for with Ashland. Like those type of rivalry things
Oh, yeah.
are pretty are pretty cool, man. So I think that's awesome.
Hey, we had the golden pin against
Oh,
Sandusky and
there we go.
So
There we go.
it trickles down.
Yeah.
You know, before the season started, when we were doing our preview, we both circled this game as a potential trap game. Nothing's changed. It still is. Yes, Illinois took a beating, a
Yeah.
throttling, a drubbing. They got took behind the woodshed. Insert whatever adjective you want to use. 63-10 to Kurt Signetti in Indiana.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a game I was not expecting that. You know, Signetti is a great coach. His guys are going to be ready to play in every game. They're going to have the utmost confidence. You can Google him, right? He's big on that. But they're going to be ready to go. I did not expect them to win that game the way that they did. But the one thing that we can't do as Buckeye fans is overlook this team based on that win, because Coach Bielema had this group ready to go, and they bounced back and beat a ranked opponent in USC the following week. And then they followed it up with another win against Purdue. And so that's not an easy thing to do. When you come into a season with a lot of expectation, like Illinois has, and then, you know, they have playoff expectations, and then you get beat down the way that they did. Those are hard. That's hard to come back from. And for them to bounce back and to beat a ranked opponent and then to have another win going into Ohio State, like that's a really good coaching job. And that's a really good job by the leaders on that team, man. So they're going to be fired up and ready to go for this game.
Yeah, and obviously they are led by Brett Bielema, who is always going to put in maximum effort toward beating Ohio State. It's just the way he's done things. He'll have some tricks up his sleeve. He loves to play the late substitution game when they're on defense, to the point of, you know, as close as you can get to where he's trying to draw that delay of game penalty because they've got the right. I think that will be part of the chess match. Obviously, it's probably not going to be like any kind of game-changing situation, but he's almost like that annoying kid on the block that just sits there and pokes you as the game goes on. Ryan Day is obviously, to me, the better coach, but Bielema, you know, his Wisconsin teams were tough. They were tough. They were gritty. I'm going to say Luke Altmaier is probably the best quarterback he's ever had.
Yeah, Luke Altmaier is a really good quarterback. I mean, if you look at their stats, you know, they're averaging 267 yards in the air, you know, and I think this kid can play. I think he's going to challenge our secondary. I think I forget the receiver's name. I'm drawing a blank.
Beatty.
Yeah, they've got a good receiver that can make some plays out in space. I was just reading an article before we got on here that talked about him wanting to play on defense, so he can do a little bit of everything. He does some returns. He's got a rushing touchdown on the year, and so there's a lot of things that they can do. And Altmaier drives that engine, and, you know, he drives that Porsche in their mind. And so like that is one of the things that the Buckeyes have to be ready for. They're going to challenge our secondary. And I think Coach Patricia is going to have his hands full. But it's a challenge that I think the Buckeyes are going to be ready for, because this roster is built to stop those type of things. And so Altmaier's a really good quarterback, and I know the Buckeyes aren't going to overlook that matchup.
No, I mean, you know, we talk about Julian Sagan's accuracy. Altmaier is at about 74% completion rate, 1,573 yards, 12 touchdowns, no picks.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
We haven't seen the Ohio State defense turn people over a ton this year,
Yep.
and that's okay. But it'll be interesting to see that chess match of how much faith does Bielema have in Altmaier versus Patricia putting his DBs on islands potentially.
Yeah, yeah. I'm interested to see, when are we going to be stretched downfield? When is the team going to really push the ball down the field and force IGB, force
Yep.
Jermaine Matthews, Lorenzo Styles to consistently have to defend the deep ball? I think this is a team and this is a quarterback that can consistently do that. And I think they can do that and open up some of the lanes in the running game as well. Although they have a really good quarterback, we're not going to forget what, Coach Bielema is known for. And I know they're only averaging 130 yards rushing a game, but they still want to be physical in the run game. They have 2 or 3 running backs that can make plays and do some good things that are averaging, 50 to 40 yards a game. And so it's kind of a running back by committee based on their stats. And so they can do some things in a run game as well, man. So it's just a game that Coach Patricia and the guy defense just cannot look past. And I know they're not. I know they're ready to go.
Yeah, so you hit on Hank Beatty. Only player in the country with a passing touchdown, a rushing touchdown, a receiving touchdown, and a punt return touchdown.
There we go.
32 grabs, 569 yards, but only 2 touchdowns through the air. So I found that kind of interesting when you look. You're getting to that point of the year where you start to see guys having 5, 6, 7, and he's really good. He's kind of small though, so that'll be interesting too. The Ohio State corners obviously have some size to them. How they match up there, I'll be interested. As you said, Altmaier is the driving force, but in that game against Indiana where they got absolutely boat raced, their O-line did not look good.
Yeah.
And then, you kind of led into the discussion about the running attack. They've got 2 guys that are kind of their 2 heads of that committee, you would say. Khalil Valentine, 61 rushes, 323 yards, 3 touchdowns, and Caden Fagan, 79 carries, 316, and 5 touchdowns. So very balanced.
Yeah. Very balanced, and that is one of the things that you want with your rushing attack. If you don't have a dominant run game or a dominant back, you want to have multiple guys who are pretty comparable that can give you multiple things out of the backfield, and I think they have that. You saw that last year with Ohio State. Obviously, we had 2 running backs that could give you, the Thunder and the Lightning, just 2 different styles of play, and so they have some consistency out of both of these guys, and so I think Bielema is also going to try to challenge the physicality of the interior defensive line because they've seen some teams have success. Texas had a little bit of success doing that. Even Ohio had a little success doing that. And so they're going to try to see if they can do those things. And like I said, don't let the Indiana game fool you. Like, this is a team that's going to come in well coached and prepared. And I just think their running game and their passing game can cause us fits if we allow it.
Yeah, they've also got that win over Duke, who everybody thought would
it.
be a decent team, coming into the year. Defensively, they don't get after the quarterback a lot outside of one guy.
Yeah.
Outside linebacker Gabe, I'm going to butcher his last name. We'll call him Jackus.
Yeah.
4 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. Nobody else on the team has more than 1.5 sacks, though.
Yeah.
But then the other thing that jumps out to me about Gabe is despite the fact that he's got 4 sacks, he's got 8 total tackles.
Yeah. Yeah, just looking at their box scores and at their stats on the year and at their total numbers, they're giving up almost 400 yards a game. And so, obviously as a defensive coach, you want to try to limit that. 252 yards in the air per game. I think this is something that, the Buckeyes are going to try to exploit. You saw that in the Minnesota game. I think this is something that they're really going to stress them in the passing game to open up those run lanes for Bo Jackson, for CJ Donaldson and James Peoples. And I think the Buckeye offensive line is going to be able to handle the Illinois defensive line I also believe their top pass rusher before the season got injured or something like that.
Yep.
I know one of their best defensive players is not
Yep.
playing because of
Ex-
injury. And so that's just one of the things that I think is going to put a lot of stress on this defense. How are they going to generate stops? You know, when they struggle against the pass, this is something that Buckeyes have shown, obviously last week against Minnesota, that they can do at a very, very high clip. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of handle that. Are they going to be a conservative defense, bend but don't break, tighten up when they get in the red zone? You know, what is that philosophy going to be? Obviously, they're going to guard against a big play against Carnell and JJ because, you know, those can blow the game wide open. And so if I'm them, I'm going to be a bend but don't break, tighten up in the red zone, make Julian Sand beat me in the red zone by making good decisions. And I'm really going to try to tighten up and shut down that run game when they get down there because, you know, we saw Washington stop us on a 4th and 1 in the red zone. So they know the Buckeyes are a little susceptible to, you know, converting those short yardage situations. And so I think you're going to see a bend but don't break, and let's see what we can do in the red zone type of game plan.
Yeah, so that injury you talked about was Xavier Scott, who is a
Yeah.
safety. Happened in week 3.
Okay.
Yeah, so the secondary against Indiana was bad. There's not really any other way to put it. One stat that, you know, I hate to keep going back to that game because it's kind of an anomaly, but it's also a great example of how you can beat them. Indiana had a blocked punt for a touchdown to score pretty early in, which ironically enough, you had a special teams last year, Ohio State against Indiana, kind of start to steamroll the process. But you would think in a 63-10 game there would have been multiple turnovers by Illinois, and there weren't.
Yeah.
These guys are pretty good at protecting the football. You know, we saw the throw last week that Julian had that was a little sketchy. He's got the 3 picks. You know, obviously that's the great equalizer. If Illinois can turn the Buckeyes over a couple times, now you got a whole different conversation.
You got to protect the football. Anytime you play in any game, but these big games, you got to find ways to make sure you're protecting the football. Defensively, you got to try to find ways to create turnovers. That's one of the things that we harp with our kids. You want to win the game, you find ways to create turnovers. You want to win the game offensively, you protect the football, right? That's one of the things that you got to try to do. You got to get off the field on 3rd down. You got to have a 60% stop rate on defense. You got to have 70+% efficiency rate on offense on 3rd down. Those are the things that you got to try to do. And if you're able to do those things, you're going to find ways to win the game. One of the stats, you know, if you block a punt in a game, there's a 90% chance you're going to win that football game. And so I do think special teams are obviously going to come into play in this game, but nonetheless, got to protect the football. I want to see the Buckeyes really create some havoc, find ways to create turnovers. I think they're going to get opportunities because I do think Luke Altmaier is their best player. And so I do think they're going to let him spin it a little bit. I think our Buckeye DBs, BIA is going to have opportunities to say, hey, like, hey, don't forget about us being the best secondary in the country. They're going to have opportunities to make some plays in the back end. And so they got to step up and really do their thing because I think they're going to have a ton of opportunity to create some of those turnovers for us.
Yeah. And, you know, you hate to keep saying the great equalizer, but the best way to see what you truly have in a quarterback that you're going against as a defense is to pressure it.
Yep.
And, you know, the Buckeyes have gotten pressure pretty much on everybody they've played this year.
Yeah.
With sending 5 at the most of the time. It'll be very interesting to see what Luke Altmaier does if the Buckeyes can generate a pass rush of some sort, even just, you know, tighten the pocket down on him and see what he does.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a kid you're going to have to, you're going to want to get off of his spot. You know,
Yeah.
last week, or 2 weeks ago when we played Washington, you know, I'm going to blank on the Washington quarterback's name, but we wanted to make sure that, listen, we've got to keep him contained. We can't let him break out of the pocket.
Yep.
We want him to beat us with his arm. This is a guy that we want to make sure we're getting off of his spot so he can't sit in the pocket and throw and have a clean pocket and get the ball downfield because he's very accurate. So getting pressure on him, whether it's bringing five, whether it's bringing six and playing some man coverage behind it, those are some different things that we're going to have to do. I guarantee you we see some Arvell Reese, some Sonny Styles on the edge, doing some different knots and loops. Caden Curry at nose guard, doing some different things to create pressure, because I think our defensive front, when we get into those sub packages, is really going to give this offensive line some problems.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see. And obviously, we talked about Kenyatta. We're not going to know anything there until 10 a.m. Saturday morning if he's on the injured report, or actually the out report. They don't even do a full injury report. But I'll be very interested to see. We started to see more Bo Atkinson last week. If when you're talking about some of those sub packages, if he's not the guy you move down to, it'll be very interesting to see. And, you're starting to see more Logan George. And obviously, if Kenyatta's a no-go, given the CJ Hicks thing we talked about with the potential red shirt, it's going to be Caden Curry. It's going to be Bo Atkinson. And then behind them, it'll be Logan George and Zion Grady.
Yeah.
Which I'm excited to see how exotic they get on some of that sub-package stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And it will be interesting to see, obviously if Kenyatta's not able to go, how many snaps, because Zion Grady got a lot more snaps than I was expecting him to get. How many snaps is he going to get? And people forget how big he is.
Boy.
Bo Atkinson is typically a guy that obviously bumps down inside, but Zion Grady with his size is somebody that can bump down inside too. So it'll be interesting to see if Kenyatta's out, will Zion kind of take on that Bo Atkinson role in some of those sub packages and be the guy that bumps down. And Logan George, I think it was Berm or somebody on the Ohio State beat that was talking about just how violent his hands were when he got into the game against Minnesota. And so it's just good to see that depth really starting to find, their stride. And then there's other guys on the roster that we can't forget, the Josh Mickens and people like that on the roster. And so that depth is really going to come into play if Kenyatta Jackson is not able to go.
Yeah, and so speaking of the CJ Hicks and Malik Hartford redshirt thing, something else I noticed after we recorded last time, that also opened up spots on kickoff. And so you saw Riley Pettijohn move to kickoff. You saw TJ Alford move to kickoff. So you're seeing guys get more just on the field time to get acclimated to the speed of the game based off of that. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So as much as the CJ and Malik redshirt thing is kind of a question mark, there's good things coming out of it as well. A lot of guys, like Slate said last time we recorded, have made their name and earned playing time based on special teams. Absolutely. So it will be interesting to see how that continues to evolve into this game.
Yeah. The special teams is so vital. The being on the kickoff team and the punt team, that is an honor. I think back to when I was in college. That was when I got my first opportunity. Was on kickoff and punt, the old school wedge buster, right? When you're literally just diving into the pile of the wedge and you're sacrificing your body. And it was the dumbest thing ever, but you did it because I want to be on the field on defense. And so I'm just going to go do it, right? So I'm going to go 1,000 miles an hour into this wedge. And so when you are able to get the TJ Alfords, the Riley Pettijohns and those type of guys, those guys are missiles, man. And so they're excited to get this opportunity. And if they ball out, that is going to translate into opportunities for them on the field on defense as well. And so listen, man, more power to these kids. Go take advantage of those opportunities.
Yeah, the wedge buster was like Red Rover on steroids.
It was, man.
Before we dive into, I know you did a little bit of research on their coaching staff. I've got the list of Ohioans. I got posed this question this week by a guy. I understand that a year of development is a year of development. But when we see what Arvell Reese has done this season, and this is a guy who many draft guys are saying is the best linebacker that, in college football. Outside of the fact you had Cody Simon, you had Sonny Styles, why do you think it was so hard for him to even see the field, though? Because I guess the correlation this year could be like Peyton Pierce.
Yeah.
We know Peyton Pierce is good, and we're seeing Peyton Pierce play.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know James Laurinaitis believes in Arvell Reese. Was this a Jim Knowles problem?
It's a good question, man. I think, Arvell Reese still played last year. It wasn't like he didn't see the field at all. Towards the end of the season, he was playing. He was rotating in at linebacker. The one thing I think people often forget, you can have all the athletic traits, tools, all those things. The mental side of being a linebacker is something that you have to understand is different. Now, there are people out there who are just freaks of nature, like Arvell Reese is, that you can put on the field and they can get away with not reading the keys that some people have to read and they just fly around and just go, right? And especially in high school, you can definitely get away with that. But at the level that Ohio State plays, it is extremely difficult to get away with those things. And so the mental side of things at linebacker is what can keep people off the field. And I'm not saying that was Arvell's issue. I don't know what it was,
Right.
but I'm assuming that he had to get up to speed on those things. And that takes time, right? It takes time for the game to slow down. When Arvell was at Glenville, and I'm sure Glenville did a great job of coaching him up, but I'll be honest, he probably didn't have to read much. Glenville
Right.
played a lot of man coverage, and he just said, I'm the best player on the field. I'm going to go find the football, right? And so to get to that level of understanding how to play the linebacker position and to read guard to near back and to understand where my fit is, and I got to make sure the defensive line is aligned on each play. And if I hear the quarterback making a check, I need to understand, hey, this formation is going to dictate what we're in. Oh, he's making a check. Now they've shifted. Okay, that our front needs a shift and I need to change my alignment. Like those are things as a linebacker you have to be able to do. Cody Simon did that at an elite level.
Yes.
Sonny Styles does that at an elite level. If you watch the games now, Arvell Reese is starting to do that at a pretty freaking high level, right? And so that is what it takes to be a great linebacker at Ohio State. I'm blanking on the guy's name, but he's a linebacker from Georgia. Oh my gosh. He was a few years ago. Got drafted by the Eagles.
Nolan Smith.
Yeah, right. There was that clip. They had those three linebackers, and there was that clip of him yelling at his teammate because he didn't do what he was supposed to do, right? And then the following play, it was Channing Tindall. He flies around and goes and makes a play. Like those are the type of people that you need to have at the linebacker position that can get everybody lined up and is an extension of the defensive coordinator on the field. That is where they need Arvell to be because next year, Sonny's gone. He's going to be that guy. And so that could have been what kept him off the field. And a perfect example of this is CJ Hicks had to move positions, right? And I'm not saying it's because, he couldn't pick it up, but it's just a difficult thing to do. And so CJ's a freak athlete. How can we get him on the field? We're going to put him at defensive end and say, just go get the quarterback. And so those are things that I think Arvell just had to pick up. And so could have been a Coach Knowles thing, maybe. Could have Coach Laurinaitis just be simplifying things for him? Maybe. Or maybe Arvell's just now starting to really pick things up and now he's just starting to take off. So it's just, you never know, man. There's just so many things that goes into that process.
Yeah, it was a really, like I said, when I got that question this week, I really kind of thought about it because there is so much that goes into linebacker. But I think he's going to have a big week this week.
Oh, my
and that's why I wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Because I do think the defense could hinge on him a lot this week.
Yeah.
Before you dive into the Illinois DC, who, we were talking before we came on here, this guy's pretty solid.
Yeah.
We all know Bielema loves Ohio. He loved them when he was at Wisconsin. When he was at Arkansas, not so much. 6 Ohioans, 5 on the defensive side of the ball, 1 wide receiver, which is Colin Dixon. I'm not sure how much any of those guys really play. I know a couple of them are freshmen. There's a redshirt freshman there, but always interesting just to see the teams that we play and the Ohioans they have.
Yeah, absolutely. One of them is Angelo McCullum. Um,
Yeah.
his sister is one of my students at OHS.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, so she goes all the games every weekend, so she's always talking about how the Buckeyes are going to get their butts beat by Illinois this year. So she always talks crap to me because I wear all my Ohio State stuff to school.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. So yeah, defensive coordinator. His name's Aaron Henry. I'm a defensive guy, so I always check out the other team's defensive coordinator. And this is a guy, he's pretty young coach. Graduated from Wisconsin, so he played for Coach Bielema. He graduated from Wisconsin in 2011, right? And so this is a guy who's fairly young. He's right around my age. I'm 38 years old. I graduated from Urbana in 2010, so he's right around the same age as me. He has only been, he's not been coaching that long. And so he's climbed up the ranks really fast. He's only been a position coach for a few years. He got to start with Coach Bielema at Arkansas. And so this guy must be legit if Coach Bielema is okay with, hey,
Right.
we're gonna make you our defensive coordinator right now. And so one of the things I always I just love is when head coaches are loyal to their guys. Like I have so much respect for that. I have so much respect for head coaches who identify those guys that were program guys, were bought into everything that they did, and they identify them and they say like, hey, if you ever get into coaching, man, yeah, I've always got your back, right? They're going to have their back no matter what. But hey, if you ever get into this coaching world, you let me know. I'm always going to have your back. And like, this is the epitome of that. Hey, you're going to start here. You're going to have to work your way up. I'm always going to be there for you. This guy had stops at Arkansas, Rutgers, North Carolina State, Vanderbilt, and then he went to Illinois when Coach Bielema came to Illinois. And so like, he wasn't just riding Bielema's coattails. He had to go out and earn it. And then Coach Bielema was like, hey, remember when I said I got you? I got you. So I always appreciate that, man. I think that is so cool to see coaches just be loyal to their people after they've put in the work and shown that they're ready to handle that responsibility. So it's a good young coach, man. Always root for young coaches, just not for this week. But after this week, I wish him nothing but success.
Yeah, and to add an Ohio State layer, but it's more of an NFL situation. Ben Johnson and JT Barrett, I think you are seeing that kind of relationship.
Yeah.
It just sucks they went to a dumpster fire of a franchise, who we all know how I feel about the way they treated Justin Fields.
Yeah.
So, and then we saw the Jets the Steelers kind of treat Justin the same way. And now look at Justin doing his thing. Line on the game, 14.5. Buckeyes by 14.5. I think they cover it.
Yep.
I think we go 35 and we finally give up 2 touchdowns, 35-14.
Okay. It's very similar to what I was going to go with. I was going to go 34-13. I think there's a couple field goals mixed in there. I think Illinois is going to come ready to play. And I could see this being a closer game. I could see this, being, 34-24. I could see this being a closer game. I could see Luke Altmaier going out and balling and giving our secondary some issues. I could see Hank Beatty making some plays at the receiver position. I think this is going to be a good test for us. I do not expect this to be a blowout, even though I hope that it is.
Right.
But I do think the Buckeyes are just the better team, and I do expect them to win by multiple scores. And I think this could be a really good statement game for Coach Day. The thing that makes me feel good about this game is just the mindset that Coach Day has with this team. Ever since the Team Up North game last year, the level of focus and detail that he has had and the pulse that he's had, on this team, like, man, it's just been awesome. So I think the Buckeyes take care of business 34-13. And, I think it's another good win for Ryan Day.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's got the potential to be a good game. I don't envision a scenario where it becomes a shootout. I really don't. There are some people out there that have said they could see it. I mean, it's going to be a test for the defense for sure.
Yeah.
I think the offense, if the O line plays the way they have, I think the offense is going to be able to do a lot of what they want to do. I think the defense will have some challenges, but it'll be interesting to see. So Saturday at noon our time, we will see what happens.
Yep.
So yeah, don't forget, like the video, share, comment. As always, subscribe to the channel. Inching closer and closer by the day to that 1,000 subscribers, so we can do that Eddie George mini helmet giveaway. We will see you guys. Yeah, so next week's a regular game week, then we've got another bye. So we'll see you guys at the beginning of the week to recap the Illinois game before the Battle Wesky edition, and then we'll have a bye week mode. So we will see you guys soon.